We used to have a gavel.
Yep. All set. All right, folks, welcome to the September 14th, 2016 meeting of the Finance Committee. Before the meeting starts and before we do anything, I just want to take a quick minute to acknowledge our former chairman, Mark Shane. Mark actually isn't here tonight because he's dealing with a medical issue because he's getting old. No, but seriously, I wanted just to acknowledge him because he was our chairman for a long time. Obviously, me being chairman now, he had a long stint, and I just want to say how the dedication of Mark and the hard work that he did for this committee, I think definitely all of us appreciate. Certainly going forward, I have big shoes to fill, but I really wanted to take a moment just to thank Mark for all his hard work and really making sure that the FinCom was on top of all the issues over the past however many years he was chairman, quite a few. So, and then with my chairmanship, Mark took a lot on his shoulders and he did a lot. So a lot of times, a lot of us didn't have to pick up the slack. I am going to be committed to having a strong subcommittee base within this full committee. I want people to be more active on their subcommittees, subcommittee chairmans, to be more active getting information back to the committee so that, the committee on the whole can be more informed and better informed on the issues going on in town, whereas, the chairman always, he took care of a lot of the stuff, so he had a lot of the knowledge. And I think it's important for us, board as a whole, for making decisions and that type of stuff, for all of us to take it on ourselves to be better informed on everything. So I'm going to make an effort to try to be at every subcommittee meeting, and for all you subcommittee chairmans, really be active with your department heads, getting information and that type of stuff, because I'm really going to look for that. At every meeting, we're going to have subcommittee reports from each of the subcommittees, and just to keep us updated from meeting to meeting on what's going on, and I'll be a little bit more active on that. So. With that being said, we now have a quorum, so I'd like to look at the approval of minutes for June 18th, 2016, which was our last full FinCom meeting.
Move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor? Unanimous. We now have, I don't think we can, oh yes, Mike's here. The approval of the minutes for the Executive Board of July the 13th, 2016. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Move that.
Yep, Al.
Second.
Yep, second. I am in favor as well, so that's unanimous. All right, first item on the agenda, second item on the agenda, excuse me, is a report from the finance director. Guys, I wanted Zach to come in. I mean, obviously it's been a long time since we met. A lot has happened. A lot of things have been cleared up. Numbers are a lot clearer now, and I just wanted Zach to come in and really just give us an update, as well as Chairman Buckley and Rick as well, to give us an update on where we stand right now. Obviously, we're going into our town meeting, and just let us know where we stand with all our projects. So with that being said, also everything that Zach has for you today is up on the Google Drive under Finance Director, and you'll find all the documents that he's referring to tonight there. I also do have paper if anyone has a problem bringing them up, but I'd prefer you use the tablets. That's what we paid for. Yes, you may.
Thank you,
All right,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman. Do you want a minute to call up your different various files?
Yeah, where do you want them to start?
I'd like to start, I think it'd be appropriate to start with how we ended fiscal 2016. So I provided a financial facts update that you're accustomed to. I know I've been a little behind with it, but I wanted to make sure that I solidified all my numbers, and I'm much more comfortable at this point.
What's under the finance director?
Yep, Finance Director.
How'd you get there? In my drive, finance committee, and then finance director.
Yeah, I think I just called it FinFacts.
Yeah, June 2016 FinFacts.
Yep, exactly.
Mine says fun facts.
Well,
He
it is
doesn't have
fun.
spell check. I don't know.
Got it.
Does everyone have it? All right.
Ready to rock?
Yeah.
All right. So, we ended 2016 very well. We came in significantly under budget. If I direct your attention down at the bottom, you'll notice that I always put an adjusted budget here. This is not the operational budget alone. It's the operational budget plus any other town meeting articles that we appropriate, along with any encumbrances from FY15 are also incorporated into that figure of $91,201,000. If you switch over to the year-to-date, you're seeing 87.2. So quick math, you're noticing around 5 million. However, this does not address encumbrances going into 17, so that number came out to around 2 million. So right off the bat, we have around $3 million of unexpended funds that are going to end up closing out to the bottom line. At the same time, we had an excellent revenue year again. Collections, you notice in the middle of the page, I break it out between levy, state aid, and local receipts, which are three major categories. Collections on the levy were really, really good again. They're in the high 90s, around 98%. A collector does a great job, and this community does a great job with paying. State aid, as we all know, has been going up pretty decent, and 16 was a large number, and they fulfilled their promises. We came in actually a little bit higher. If you recall, there's numerous items that are more or less estimates, kind of like school choice in and out. We also have our veteran benefits that are based on actual activity. So that came in a little bit higher. Nothing crazy there, but local receipts, 9.8 million. So that is significantly higher than what we estimated. Keep in mind that when we do these estimates, there's certain items that the DOR does not allow you to estimate. So it's not like we always have a, can't think of the word, not so much an aggressive or conservative approach. There it is. All right, so it's not that we're like incredibly conservative and that these numbers are significantly less. There's certain items that we just we're not allowed to estimate for, and those have been really good. An example would be tax title. So the logic behind that is we're already taking care of that in the levy, despite the fact they didn't pay for it the next year. It's already been estimated is kind of the logic. And when that happens, you have significant interest that comes into. So that figure right there is over $2 million higher than what we estimated. So right off the bat, $3 million of unexpended funds, $2 million of local receipts that came in higher. Is 5 right there. So
The revenue side, Zach, is over by 5 million?
no, the revenue side's over by around 2.5 million. But what I was getting at was the expenditures came in, the budgets came in $3 million less. So the two of them together coming at 5 million. So that's where tonight I'm going to be talking about a free cash number of $5 million. It is not certified right now. It could potentially be a little bit higher, but I'm usually a vault with that number. So I know with having big numbers like that, you hear a lot of different options getting tossed around. So I thought it was wise to kind of jump ahead and give a report on where we actually are right now and kind of let you know what we're thinking about and how we're planning on structuring for this upcoming town meeting.
And Zach, as we talked about, it is a big number, $5 million, and then people's initial reaction is always, well, what did we do wrong? And my response to that is the exact opposite. What did we do right? We have a $100 million corporation. We were off by $5 million. We basically got a 95 on our test, okay? If you're not happy with a 95 on a test, and it's 5 million to the good. I mean, it could be 5 million to the bad.
It really could.
And
yeah.
a lot of that isn't, as we mentioned, isn't about our budgeting, because a lot of it was because of additional revenue, which we can't, as Zach said, we're not allowed to estimate that aggressively. So to say that it's anyone's fault, and obviously it's a good thing because we're 5 million to the positive. Like I said, if you get a 95 on a test, I think you've done a pretty good job, and I think that's through the hard work of the 3 men sitting in front of us, and I think our board as well, and all the department heads. And I think everybody's good work, comes out and, for $5 million in the plus.
Mr. Chairman, if
Yep.
I might. There are some municipalities and some departments within other municipalities that might look at their budget as a spend-to budget. And that means if they see a lot of excess towards the last few months, they're going out and buying. The culture exists within our department heads and through the free flow of information in places like this, where department heads don't feel the need to go do that. And you see that in the rollover of cash when budgets end. So it's not a spend-to budget, they know it, and the discipline is good and the culture is right.
Yeah.
Well, before anybody gets
Can we
really,
ask questions?
I don't.
Sure, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll just, if it's okay with Zach, yeah, that's great. So,
I was
I was
Albert.
gonna say, before anybody gets too excited, I mean, if you think of the plan, I guess you'll go over the recommendation. We were hoping to have $3.5 million to pay off old debt, put it towards the bridge coming, put it towards things. So out of that 5 million, it's not like there's 5 million, in my mind, 5 million there that we didn't plan on. You know, part of the woodland, all of those pieces, I would say probably eat up almost all of that 5 million. I mean, again, a great thing, because we get to pay off more debt, we don't have to borrow.
Yeah.
So for the future, but I don't want anybody getting the impression that we overtaxed 5 million
Nope, absolutely
and
not.
we don't have a place to spend it. We already had plans to
Absolutely.
keep us in the financial position we are by
Yeah.
allocating that money.
And just to play off that a little bit, if I may, so, once I actually have free cash certified, what I did last year, and I liked it, and I think, members of this board and the selectmen did too, so I plan on repeating, putting together an analysis of where our free cash came from, but off the top of my head, I'll tell you, one of the biggest areas was health insurance, and if everyone recalls at the annual town meeting during budget process, we did reduce that budget, so, that was addressed, we put it back into a more realistic budget for what we anticipate, and that kind of went hand in hand with now having the benefits office as well. So as you'll notice too, as I go through some of the highlights, what we did also do was take a fresh look at the local receipts. Paul had done a lot of work with that too, and I agree with him.
Yeah, Zach, that's my question. I mean, are we gonna get detail as to the components of the revenue and the expense side? Because I'd like to look at the detail.
Not tonight, but yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You're saying on the
Full
revenue
detail.
side, it's principally in the local receipts?
Yes, absolutely, yes, yep.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, that stuff has been posted on the drive, so whoever has access to the FinCom drive, it's under the, it should be for like FY 16, there should be the year-end reports, so the year-end
Okay.
revenue reports and the year-end
Yeah.
expense reports, which will give you a starting point.
But I think it's really helpful to look at that detail, analyze that detail, and I think it's a good learning vehicle in going into next year.
Agreed. I will put together a real nice, tight analysis on it that will explain all of that.
Great, thank you.
Any questions on 6:30 update before we jump into the special town meeting?
Nope.
If I could draw your attention to the next page, I think it would be appropriate to start with the special town meeting highlights and drafted results. I believe I just titled it Highlights, October 2014 Highlights. Should be a PDF.
Yep.
Good?
What's the name of that file again?
It was all part of the same file, just different pages.
No, they're actually four
Oh, I thought
separate
it was another-
files.
another-
I know they were separate files.
I got them all in the same thing.
Finance director, and then,
Highlights.
yep,
Got it.
highlights.
Got it. Thank you.
Everybody good?
So I put this together as a little bit of a cheat sheet to help you interpret some of the charts of which I stare at all day and know exactly what I'm looking at that may aid you in being able to read it the same way I am. So I'm just going to go through some of them, stop me at any point if we can talk about them, or I can go right through them and then we can reference the charts to have a discussion. It's up to you. So, excuse me. Right off the bat, out of the 5 million that I talked about, again, not certified, we plan on utilizing 3.2 million. $2 million will be a sponsored article to provide levy relief, be sponsored both by the selectmen and the finance committee. Right.
And just so everyone remembers, initially, at the beginning of the year, this was at $1.8 million. After talking to the chairman of the selectmen, and we've moved that number to $2 million.
Correct.
So-
And I will differentiate between that particular article and what excess levy capacity would likely end up being. A lot of times we try to make them one and the same. This somewhat of a unique circumstance this year. We will have the benefit of a little bit extra. We still, at the beginning of the year, estimated 1.5 million of capital funding for purposes of this presentation. I'm not going into any individual articles. We'll have that time and place to have those
I
discussions.
have a
So,
report coming.
okay, great. So at this time, it's still just 1.5.
That's the same that we had back in May. or
Yes, it
June.
is. Correct,
Yeah.
correct. We have actually had a meeting today. Paul was there with James from, he's the project manager for Woodland. So one of the highlights that you've been hearing us talk about for a while was appropriating an amount of money for the remaining local share of the Woodland School project. So we kept it at 28 million as promised for bonding. We knew we were going to receive a decent premium, in which we went to town meeting at the annual to have that applied directly to the project. That was approximately 1.5 million. The project's looking really good, so it's under budget, and we had a meeting today to make sure that we could wrap up all the anticipated cash flow that's going to come back from the MSBA, and to incorporate that into our final figures to see what the remaining piece would likely be for the local share. And at the beginning of the year, we were estimating that could be around 1.5. It's looking more like $1 million, and it actually could come in a little bit better, but I think we stay conservative here, keeping in mind that if it does happen to come in a little bit lower, with this being local money being appropriated, we could drop it down like any other article that I sponsor, transfer it to another capital project. You're not restricted to arbitrage issues as if it were bonding. So at this time, we're going to be recommending 1 million. I feel comfortable with that figure, and there's a little bit of room there that's also beneficial to us. Another planned highlight that we were discussing at the beginning of the year was our annual contribution of $500,000 to the town stabilization fund. We've philosophically all agreed that we should have a continued contribution, and we felt comfortable with that figure, and we're going to remain at that figure. One that I haven't really had too much chance to talk with a lot of people about was the desire of the retirement board to appropriate $1 million to the unfunded pension liability. I spoke a few times in front of the finance committee as well as the selectmen about these large numbers that we have, approximately $50-60 million. It's a lot, and the fact that PERAC now state mandates that you can be funded out to 2037, but there's a huge wave and push to kind of move you up to 2036 to have final funding, 2035. And the last time they came out, the actuary, to give us a funding schedule, we were right in the middle of this whole Woodland analysis, and we had those uncertainties of bonding, and our board, I'm chairman of the retirement board, that's why I say our, was very reluctant to just take on an advanced funding schedule, because once you do, it's somewhat like snow and ice where you can't move it back out. I mean, theoretically you could, but it's much more difficult and not desirable or frowned upon to do so. So at that time, we gave a figure of 5.5 escalator or discount rate, and we remained on 2037. Now, if you look at a lot of the systems across the Commonwealth, we're probably one of 12 that are still at 2037. So we're not as aggressive really as we should be there, but I was uncomfortable with just locking in and having mandatory amounts. So remember, the annual appropriation comes directly out of the operational budget that is mandated. So to make that assessment at the time, the figures were much larger than I was comfortable with. Didn't want to lock us into that. Everything we do is try to control the tax rate, and it was too significant of a jump, in my opinion, to make that move at that time. So in this particular case, with having the reserve levels that we do, the board thinks it's a good idea to maybe do this one-time appropriation that will have no bearing on future schedule. It won't be a reduction. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if we do this now, it's going to reduce our funding later. But what our intent here to do is to, this upcoming year, the actuary is going to come back and do a new funding schedule for us. So my intent here, and based on my numbers, would be they will obviously incorporate the fact that we appropriate an additional $1 million, and my intent is to get us on to 2035 with the rest of the Commonwealth without the burden of the significant increase in the annual appropriation. And I think we will be able to accomplish that by doing this. So to put it in a different sense, it's kind of playing catch-up, if you will. So we could have, at the time, just locked ourselves into it. I was not comfortable doing that, so this is catching up over the past couple of years, and hopefully create a more desirable funding schedule for us moving forward that moves us up to 2035.
Zach, you're gonna create a new funding schedule, or the actuary's gonna create a new funding schedule that we're gonna have to comply with, or is it just kind of a guide to get to 2036?
Once the retirement board adopts it, then yes, you have to comply with it. So that's why it feels proper to do this, that will slide in. The other thing that they do, and I kind of disagree with it, but it's called asset smoothing. So they look, so like when 2008 came, it doesn't have a tremendous impact on your funding schedule, and all of a sudden your appropriations through the roof. So they take your losses and they smooth them out over a number of years. So when I made this call, I knew that we were on the tail end of the asset smoothing, and they were bringing in a lot of money that really wasn't negative. So I told the actuary, I'm like, well, you're not having a true picture of looking at our actual assets. So this will very much help and hopefully push us into the 2035 without that aggressive increase.
Yeah, and that'll be an annual appropriation every year, once that funding schedule is locked in.
Correct. So speaking with Jim Lamenza, who's the actuary through PEREC, he said you could probably do that, stay on your 5.5 and move up to 2035. So it's kind of a win-win, if you ask me. And it accomplishes what we could have done a couple of years ago when all these uncertainties were surrounding it.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is the establishment of an injured on duty fund. This is something new that came out with the Municipal Modernization Act. It's been talked an awful lot through a lot of seminars I go through with the association, and I was waiting for it to happen, and it's here. So Rick thought it was a good idea to take a look at this. I agreed with him, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it.
Basically, we can establish a special indemnity fund, basically replacing our injured on duty. We would be able to set up this fund and then appropriate as needed from year to year. To give you an example, over the last 3 years, we're averaging at about 103,000. We typically budget about 74. I will tell you this year, unfortunately, we are about 2/3 the way through the budget. So coincidentally, I was going to put an article, or request an article, to supplement that, but now with this coming on board, it seems to make a lot of sense, take it out of the departmental budget. Obviously, if we have a good year and we don't need to use it, we don't need to appropriate as much the succeeding year. So it just seems to make sense on a number of levels. If we were to get a third-party claim, we could take what we get from that third-party claim for medicals, put it back into this special indemnity fund. Anything for wages, though, would probably drop down, as Zach would say. So to me, it makes a great deal of sense. I think the selectmen are on board, and I know we've had some conversation.
When Rick brought the idea to me that he came up with, I think it's a fantastic idea. Now that we have the ability to do it, and to have this funded and not worry about the operational budget each year, and then you worry about whether, like a year this year where you're expending it, in which the money will just sit in there, and year to year, as we need to refund this, we just put an article on and refund it. So I think it's a great idea you came up with, Rick. And
Is there a cap to the fund, or is it, how are you gonna, we're gonna fund 250 in year 2? Is there some type of target you're trying to get to, or is it almost gonna be like a
Not
revolving account?
Yeah.
yes, very
Just
much
hit the
so.
nail
Very
right
much
on the
so.
head.
Bill,
That's
what
another way to
Bill said
describe it.
was It's like a revolving account. We'll keep it at that level.
Yep.
So next year, if he ate up, God forbid, 200,
Yeah, okay.
You would
we'd add
supplant
that.
it with
It
200.
won't grow.
Try to keep
It's
that,
not
yes,
an
it's not
automatic
gonna go,
budget.
yeah.
No, the intent is not to
right,
have it
right.
grow, no,
Okay, I
not
just
at
wanted
all.
to
But
understand
to
what
try to
we're
keep a
going
level of about 250,000.
It's like a non-revolving revolving account.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
And, you know, if the board needs, the Finance Committee needs more information from the Modernization Act that Governor Baker put through, this is where it's born out of, we can get you that information.
Yes. Seems pretty straightforward, though. I think it's,
I'll continue. Another thing that we've been talking about for quite some time now was if we were in the position we are right now, which we are, we talked about having the treasurer take a look at some of our existing callable debt. What that means is once you lock into bonding, there's a certain obligation to keep your promises for a minimum of 10 years, depending on the length of the bonds. But in this case, we asked Town Treasurer Chris Pillar to quantify these numbers and make a recommendation, and to try to look at some of the higher end interest rates, and to come up with a number that would make sense for the town. So right now, we have a couple that we could pay off. It would total $710,000, and it would result in a savings of $145,000 for future years. Not to mention that now that would obviously come out of the operational budget as well for the principal side. Pretty straightforward, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. It's always good to pay off debt.
Absolutely.
Particularly at higher interest.
And I think-
What rates are we paying off?
And we,
Zach?
oh.
It's
5%.
closer to
5%.
5%, yeah.
5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's looking at the thing that Chris put together, and it was fantastic to actually see it in front of you and the numbers involved. I'd like to, in the future, be even more aggressive, or as aggressive, because we're pretty aggressive here with 700,000, but try to lop that stuff off. I mean, when you can save the community $145,000 in interest just by paying it off when we have the money anyway, to me, that's a good source, a good use of our funds. So I'd like to stay aggressive with that in the future, about looking at that and staying on top of being able to pay up, because there were only certain things that were callable, though. I mean, we have plenty of debt, but there was only certain numbers that were callable at the time,
Exactly.
and this was, one of those that was gonna save us quite a bit. It was the highest on the interest rate schedule, so.
That was my question. Zach, do you have a schedule of what is callable?
Yes, we do.
So
Yep.
you have
Yep.
some sense down the road of what?
Yes, we do.
You have the ability to pay
Yeah,
off?
Town Treasurer Pillar's been doing a really good job, and he could not be here tonight, but when we actually get into the individual articles, he will be prepared and have a little more in-depth discussion.
Alberto?
Excuse me.
This
That's something
wipes-
we can look to do down the road.
Yes, it is. Yep. And we can even, there's a few that'll be coming up for refunding as well, which is just the municipal term of refinancing debt as well, so.
This wipes out all of the debt we can pay without penalty.
No.
There's additional debt, but
There's more.
at this time, this is what we're comfortable with.
Okay, how much
Yeah.
more is left?
That's payable.
Yeah.
When we get them that analysis.
Yeah, I don't want to throw numbers that I
okay.
don't have
We'll
yet.
get you that.
There's
Well, I would like the
there's
number-
quite a bit more.
Yeah, Chris, when we talk about it, Chris will be prepared and he'll have
Just
a
because when the
report.
spring comes, if we still have
Yeah,
the reserve there.
there
that
was
we-
another one that we were looking at, but there's also notification rules that come into play and
Jack,
all
we
that
don't need
fun
the
stuff,
details,
so.
but just keep
yeah.
in mind that
Yep.
we are putting money, well, I'll let you finish, but we're
Yeah.
putting money aside, and come spring, if we can save another 100,000 or something, that'd be a wonderful thing to at least talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Another area that Paul and I had been looking at was a trend in our self-insurance funds, one of which had been dipping a little bit more than it really should be. So if you look at our appropriations in the operational budget, we haven't been very aggressive at all. We've been falling into the annual recommendation, 2% here, 1% there. It was also our hope that once we have it in proper investments, that it could actually earn some money for us and that it could build based on our interest. Flip side of that is you have claims at times. So over the past 10 years, I'd say, Paul, that we've identified around $250,000 that has dropped. So at this time, we would like to make this one-time additional contribution, get it back to a desirable level, and we will revisit the annual budget to see if we need to make some adjustments there. But that can wait till May, and at this time, $250 again is a comfortable number. There's also, again, keep in mind, I mean, the selectmen have not approved the warrant, haven't reviewed the warrant, hasn't been released. So here, I'm just kind of categorizing certain areas, but there's an additional approximately $290, call it $300,000 of non-capital items, such as a selectman-sponsored opioid epidemic program. Would you like to talk about it? or
Sure,
kinda-
sure. So for those of you aware that the budget override from the legislators went through, we're working with the governor's office to try to get them to release those funds, but there was $84,000 from the state for opioid assistance and addiction treatment. That's funded through the police department. and then out through organizations like JAG and Riverside. We're talking about, you know, it's a regional effort. And so in order to avoid those $84,000 being gone in a matter of months, what we want to do is, and we talked about it at our meeting, doing some fund assistance and matching. And so the intent of the 28,000 is to try to get communities to put up $1 per person per capita, so that it's balanced, and that communities that want to join us in our opioid addiction treatment programs and efforts with $1 per person can do that and not have it hit their budgets too hard. You know, as the chief said, one of the challenges that we have when we have regional efforts is a lot of people, you know, want to sit at the dinner table, but not a lot of people want to help make dinner. And so what we want to do is make sure that this regional effort is funded by other communities, and we want to be the first to step up to grant match that state grant, that state fund.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
But my understanding is we're in no matter what. The Milford people will be taken care of.
Well, because it's grant matching, and that's a great question. Until the grant comes across the table, the 84,000, we're not grant matching until.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
if the 84 comes in.
We're in.
We're putting our 28 in, Milford's covered.
Right. Now, anybody
If
else that wants to join us?
Town A, B, or C wants in, they have to put their money in front, or they just don't participate.
Right. That's the intent.
So we're not gonna take from Milford residents to,
No.
And
to
fund
subsi-
all
fund
the other
others.
communities, that's correct.
Okay.
And we'll make sure and we're working with legal, we're working with police chief, working with JAG, we're working with finance director to make sure just those concerns are addressed, right? Those specific concerns are addressed, so they're not funding the greater region or Worcester County.
Well, it seems like an awful low number. Yeah,
Yeah.
28 grand, if you're helping Milford residents who are hurting.
It
It
is.
seemed like a huge number.
And there's a philosophical approach here that, you know, through our drug task force, which many of you may not always be aware of, the types of things that happen. The chief talks to us periodically, we get updates, and we hear from the chief. There's a tremendous effort by a regional effort to go after the traffickers, the people that are making money off of heroin sales. This philosophically looks at the treatment side and says, from a user standpoint, what we want to do is get them treatment. We're not criminalizing, and frankly, we're not going to incarcerate our way out of this problem. And it's a national problem. The president's talking about it, the governor's talking about it, the legislators are talking about it. We always said if the state came through, if we could get grants, that we'd help, and this is the number that we're talking
So,
about.
Bill, do you think this is a one-time grant, or are we gonna revisit this every year, or should we make this part of the health department's budget, or?
I would love to see that personally. That would be something that I'm really looking at, that this is such a problem. And I think everybody knows it, and I think everybody must know somebody that's gone through
it's a
something like
growing
this.
problem.
And it's a growing problem, and to answer your question, Mike, it's one of the things that I would really like to look at and fund it right into the health department and put it part of their operational budget.
Yeah, I'd like to
But
tell
obviously,
you-
we'll cross that bridge when we get to
We
it.
don't have an epidemic next year, but it didn't take us, 2 years to get into this problem, and it's probably not gonna take us 2 years to get out of it. And that's a great question. And that's one that we ought to work with the FinCom on and others.
Well, we also need to watch it because we're adding 28 to an 84. If the 84 isn't there next year, it's not just 28.
Nope, you're
It's
exactly
gonna be a
right.
bigger number. I
No,
mean,
right
I can't,
question, good
I
point.
can't think of a cause that deserves it any more than this, if people in town are hurting. But we just gotta know what the real numbers are.
And the idea is actually to work on the prevention side because, as many of you probably already know, some of you work in healthcare, others may have personal situations where they know somebody, a neighbor, a friend. We're paying for it anyway. Community and towns are paying for it anyway, whether they're paying for it in our programs at schools, whether they're paying for it in our hospitals, whether they're paying for it. We're paying for it across the gambit. People that are breaking into cars for change, and GPS systems are doing so that they can get the next fix. It's a cost. We're seeing it. Hopefully, we can get in front of it.
Yeah, so we'll keep this on our radar. going
Yeah.
forward.
Definitely. Good point, Mike.
Thank you.
On the, Mr. Chairman, one thing that you mentioned, non-capital articles. I'm gonna be a nit, Rick. When do I see the drafts?
It's coming. Selectmen, you'll have everything Tuesday morning.
morning.
Selectmen will be looking
Is
at.
that, is that the final? No, I was just.
No,
looking-
no, no. What I'll put together is, what I do every year, an Excel spreadsheet, which will list articles by department, the title of the article, and.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feeling for,
My intention to give you final Tuesday. I think we can go through them.
okay.
It's the intention.
Yeah, Bill, I just want to be able to plan, you know, the
Sure,
money
sure.
we have.
I'll have the final listing.
I
It's a
don't think-
decent
I don't think you're gonna
snapshot
be
right
su-
here.
I don't think you're gonna be surprised at a lot, and some of it we've already had some dialogue about. So you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be
Just
shocked.
to get a gut feel.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we
Because
can
some
do
of the
that.
articles won't have real numbers, but, you know, when they say an amount to be determined.
Yeah.
If you can put off in the column, Rick, if you know anything,
Estimated.
like, this is $1, it's $1 million, that'll help us determine how well we're doing against our budget.
Yeah.
Some of them will
This-
have numbers, yes, others, may
All
not
right.
have them.
This should be viewed as a decent snapshot of what to expect.
And we look forward, all
Why
right, so
we're
we
doing
look
it.
forward to seeing that on Tuesday. All right, great.
Couple other items is non-capital. We have a collective bargaining for the fire to take care of. We have a minor OPEB compliance cost. It's now our year to have an actuary come in on that end as well, our other $60 million liability. But we're working on that, and I feel pretty comfortable there as well. And we're also thinking about Route 16 land taking and easements. Rick, you want to talk about that, Bill?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, many of you know that we've been put on the state funding TIP program for the Route 140, Route 16.
16.
Yeah, intersection. It's economically vital to us. From a safety perspective, it's important. We're backing up a lot of traffic. There's gonna be some substantial land taking. We're not at the 75% level engineering plan yet. But what we wanna do is, rather than surprise you and say, hey, we've got $400,000 or $300,000 or $200,000 worth of land taking, because I don't know what the number is. What we wanted to do is put aside money that's under our control, I say ours collectively, so that we soften the burden and the hit when that land taking happens. The last meeting that we had, that Rick had with Department of Transportation, they talked about the possibility of moving us up to fiscal year 2018. So rather than being far down the road, it's just the other side of the hill.
Yeah, and that's why when these three gentlemen brought this up to me about this situation, and I definitely think that we are currently in the position that we should be looking at this so that we don't bear the full brunt 2 years, or, because it's happening. It's not a question of whether it's going to happen or not. It's going to happen. And knowing that it could be even happening a year early, I think to be able to put 200,000 away, to be responsible and say, you know what, we're not gonna get hit with the full brunt in a couple of years, and we're in the position that we are right now, to me, once again, we'll talk about this in the future, but I think that this, once again, is a prudent,
Yeah, we're talking
it's a
about
prudent
left turn
allocation of
lanes
funds, yeah.
in a tight intersection, it's gonna cost.
And if for some reason, if it's 150,000,
Is this the intersection of Route 16 and 140?
Yes,
Yeah,
right at the hospital.
yeah.
Yep.
right at the-
Those houses are tight now, the ones that remain. It's gonna be, to
interesting.
get dedicated turn lanes, it's gonna be very interesting, right? And I expect it, and I expect it to cost.
Little community hospital that
Yeah.
used to be at that corner.
Bite your
Yeah,
tongue.
okay, good.
Alberto.
Good idea, though.
This is
I'm all for
200
it.
Me too.
This is 200 above the 90 that we already have in the capital plan to do the work, right?
Just for
Yes.
The engineer.
90s for engineering.
Right, 90's for the, that's what I'm
This is
saying.
strictly land taking.
This is
Or they're not
strictly-
necessarily 200 at this point. We're still.
Whatever the
reviewing
number
it,
is,
yeah.
but we got 90 in the capital budget
Correct.
to do the work. That's
On
still
Scott's end.
solid. This
Yeah.
is on top of that.
Yes,
Land taking and easements.
correct. It'll be
Okay.
specific to that purpose.
And I'd like to be able to tell you that we came in at $40,000 on the land takings because some people donated. I don't think that's gonna be the case. Love to be able to tell you that.
Don't hold your breath, Mr. Buck.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike?
When the town takes on a land-taking process like this, what's the time lapse usually from beginning to end?
That's a
With
great.
Legal, and, I mean, you're talking about a couple of years or a couple of months, or?
It can be a couple of years, and the reason is there's an automatic appeal process that lets somebody challenge the number. And sometimes it doesn't always go in the town's direction, even though
Not
you've
that
got.
much need to pre-fund it. I mean, if you're looking at timing, you can fund it some, but you don't have to front-end load it 100%.
Oh, yeah, and that's why at this point, we don't even know. I mean, it could be no one knows. So
I don't
just
know
leave
if
it.
it's I don't know if it's $500,000 by the time we're done at that intersection.
Some of the takings, if I may, in the easements of Route 140, the state roadway, could be funded by the state.
By the state.
The engineer that we've hired is looking into that. Don't have a final answer on that yet,
But generally speaking, municipality is responsible for land takings.
No question on the roots.
And this is one of those, I mean, I hate to ask people to do a leap of faith, but you know we're doing this and you know we're gonna fund it, so I'm asking you to take a little leap of faith there.
Well, they could challenge the number, but they can't challenge the actual land taking, is that right?
That's correct. So we could have
You
three,
could go to court and get more money, but you could still take the land.
we could have three assessments. Those assessments could be challenged, and either through the court system or through a settlement process, it would go up.
And that's what
Could go
shortens
up.
the number. The more generous you are with what you give them, typically the shorter the time to get them.
Yeah.
So it's a balance.
Awesome, I think we're good on that.
This next item is, I've been talking a lot internally, and we've had a chance to talk about it. One of the bigger ticket items we're gonna see on this special town meeting is the ladder truck. I mean, we've been talking about it for a long time now, and if you all recall, this was the item that got us to open up the capital stabilization account, which I thought was a fantastic idea, and I still think it's a great idea to this day. What I would like people to start thinking about, and it's why I wanted to propose it now, and what we've been talking about, was given our great position right now and our very healthy free cash level, we have the ability to pay this through free cash, and I really think that we should do that. I'll give you want some of the logic behind it, or,
I mean, you can, it just,
as far as audit is concerned, as far as financial institutions are concerned, your stabilization levels, along with your undesignated fund balance, which is what really holds free cash, are one and the same. They're all undesignated funds. So if we have it here, the same concept, if we have it here, why are we going to mess with our stabilization account that has investment strategy built into it? It's all it's not just liquid money that I can turn around and pull out. It's all set up through equities, and we have a vast portfolio. So if we're going to do something like this, we have to strategically align with our investment firms, and that costs money. So it comes back through fees and management fees, and something seemingly minor like this will cost actually more money.
Yeah.
So if it's one and the same, why wouldn't we take it here, leave our investments alone, and we know we have some big ticket items coming down the line that we can reallocate to.
That's why when Chairman Buckley and Zach came to me with this idea about funding something that we had already thought for years we had funded from one place and taken it from another, and they explained the strategy to it and why they thought it was a good idea. Initially, I was a little hesitant. I was like, no, we've said that $1.1 million, that was a truck. And I said, I don't think we should do this. But after hearing them out and hearing just a quick synopsis from Zach on why it is advantageous, and once again, looking at something like, and I even wrote in here in the notes, something like Godfrey Brook on the horizon.
Not going away.
It's going to come. If we have the $1.1 million and we deem that the fire truck and the ladder truck is a necessary purchase, why not pay with it? Pay it with the free cash now and not touch the stabilization fund, which is making us money. So it's, it's not going to be a huge difference, but there's savings there. And when we have the free cash, why not do it? So,
To me, it's tomato, because if you take the 1 million out of free cash and you don't touch the stabilization, one of the items missing on here is $200,000 we talked about putting towards future fields. So whether you took 1.1 million out of the long-term stabilization and then paid for the other items, or whether you take it out of free cash and don't take it out of here, to me, it's the same. We're paying off things that we all agreed for years we wanted, we planned for, and we're paying it off in the most economical way.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I would be more worried if somebody came out of the blue and said, oh, we have a surplus, I want a green pickup truck for the selectmen.
Well, I'd be more worried if somebody said, hey, suddenly we want to bond this.
well, exactly.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah.
we were adamant about this years ago. When
why
that's
it was
what
done.
this project is, what
Exactly.
stimulated the creation of that second
And
fund.
that came from this finance committee.
Yep.
It was their recommendation, it was your recommendation.
And that's my point, that long-range capital planning account, you could call it a non-bonding account. It was set up so we could start putting money away and not add to our debt load. Which account it comes from, Zach, you're the only one that looks at, is it account 150, is it account 180? To us, it's what makes the most financial sense. So if it makes more sense coming out of free cash and not touching it, but not putting any back to back, all the same to me.
Yeah, so, and I think this officially makes the evolution of that fund from not being the ladder truck fund anymore.
Yeah,
You know
good
what I mean?
point.
So
Didn't
that's what
think of
we've
it
always
that way,
called
yeah.
that is, oh, we have that money, oh, that's in the,
Capital
that's in the, right now, that's exactly right. And to me, that's, you know, it was a great idea the two of them came up with, and I
We
I
did
think
forget
we
the
should go forward.
200.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
well, think about it. I mean, with the phase of Godfrey Brook, we had to authorize 1.1 million.
So
Ironically,
there's
same
your fire
number.
truck right there.
Bam.
Yep,
You know.
okay, excellent.
So we'll have the chief give us the merits of the fire truck.
Once again, and I said,
Obviously,
and I,
yeah.
and I said that at the beginning, whether we deem that the fire truck is a worthy capital project, that's a whole
Moves
different
forward,
situation.
yeah.
And, you know, that will change a lot, but assuming that he's gonna, you know, sell his truck, then, you know, that's where we'll get the funding, so.
Perfect. And then here's where, at the beginning of the presentation, I wanted to differentiate between actual sponsored article of taxpayer relief and what projected excess levy capacity will likely be. Under this simulation, it's gonna be 2.5 plus million. Beginning of the year, we're talking about 1.4, so pretty good. And to really do a lot of these other things, I mean, I think we are in a killer position right now. Should all be very proud of ourselves. And if we follow this simulation, again, I know that we haven't vetted all the articles. You haven't seen them all. They haven't approved them yet. But once we move forward, we should be looking at a simulation like this.
And for everyone to, if you guys wanna see the actual numbers on things, in Zach's folder as well, there's another document in there called,
What is it?
oh, 10/24/2016 STM. And that has the actual breakdown, basically of all the highlights that Zach just went through right now, but on a sheet. So you can see where everything is. And I wanna caution everyone, because the next conversation that starts is the source of funding debate that we start to get into. And I really would, if we can keep that to a minimum, because Zach is very good about looking at the numbers. And to be honest with you, whenever I look at taxpayer relief and the financial position, it is the combination of free cash and excess levy capacity. I don't care if one is high and one is low. When you're looking at the full picture, it's the combination of the two. So when we look at source of funding, maybe you would think one should be on the left side, one should be on the right. The point is, it all washes out at the bottom.
Correct.
And I know that, you know, some people like to argue whether one thing should be one or the other, but it really is when you look at the bottom, when you get the true picture that we're gonna be going forward with what we have here, with $1.8 million in free cash and $2.5 million in excess levy capacity, that gives you the total picture. And to echo what Zach has said, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And I think, once again, I gave kudos to everyone before, whether it's us, you three sitting in front of you, Paul, department heads, the whole team.
everybody.
It's just amazing what we've done in this town and the services that we provide and the things that we do with our money and still be sitting in this position, so. Anything else, Zach?
Yeah, just one last comment. Again, obviously, over the next month, these numbers will change here, a little bit there, but overall, we should be continuing to really expand off this model. Now, off of these highlights, I'm not going to go into the charts. Those, as Chairman Moran mentioned, they are provided to you. Take a look at them. This morning, Paul and I put the balance sheet compared to my chart. They do jive, they match, so they're in sync with each other, and get to know it, and we could talk about it more at another meeting.
And the only last thing, Mr. Chairman, is I just want to make sure that we're okay in principle, and there's a general consensus that we'd co-sponsor the article for the taxpayer relief between the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom.
Yep, at the $2 million level. Yep.
Whatever that number.
Oh, yeah,
it's
whatever that
proposed-
number is,
It's
that's
proposed
fine.
to
That's
right
great,
now,
yeah.
but if we could co-sponsor it, that would go.
I appreciate that, because the days of us fighting back and forth about who's the first one to get to Rick's office with the piece of paper, I would like to stop that in the future. We work as a team.
That's right.
I want us to continue to work as a team, and, you know, as long as the taxpayers get their relief,
That's all they care about. They
But
don't
for-
care about who sponsored it. They just don't want the money going out of their pocket.
that's correct. Mr. DeVita.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps this is not the ideal forum for this topic, but I think we need to start to think about, and perhaps from, pardon me, our committee, Mr. Chairman, is establish a subcommittee. And I refer to the impending, or the study concerning the purchase of the Milford Water Company. We have not had an update for probably a year, I think, Mr. Chairman, so perhaps we could schedule something. and
Absolutely.
Generally, we go into executive session with that, but this is not something that we need to, or are able to analyze once it comes before the town meeting. You guys have been looking at it for years, so we need to start to get involved in that process. And I don't think this is the forum. But
Excellent point.
Put it on the
Yeah,
front
that's a
burner.
No,
good point.
absolutely, no, I will put that on the
Thank you.
front burner, not even the back.
And the selectmen should be present along with council in the executive
I
session.
agree.
Absolutely. Anybody else got anything for Zach, Rick, or Bill? Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
We could spike the ball, this is
Spike the
what we should spike the ball over. Nice job, guys.
hey, Zach, nice job, Zach.
Thank you very much.
The next agenda item, to be honest with you, we just kind of flowed into it with the, with that whole talk about free cash and that type of stuff. So really, I don't think there's, much to talk about in that avenue. I did, like I said, I did want to get into everything, obviously, in future meetings on all these articles. I didn't want to do it tonight, so I'm glad that we kept the conversation very 30,000 feet and looking at everything and not getting into stuff, so, because we do tend to sometimes get sidetracked on things, and it does take a lot of time, so. All right, next, I had on there was subcommittee reports. Now, one of the things I want to talk about first on this is I did put up on the Google Drive, and I will make that available to the press and Mr. Abendanza and get that up on the town website. But you have it all available on the Google Drive, all our subcommittee assignments. There have been some changes. I'm going to try to, well, depending whether it's me or whoever it is, I think it should be a policy of trying to move people more, so everyone gets a more well-rounded view of the town as a whole. I had mentioned this during a couple of our executive meetings this summer, that, I know that I have been on 5 subcommittees and I haven't really moved much, and I think of all of us get a better picture of the town and what's going on. I know we're all comfortable where we sit, and, change isn't the best thing, but I think it's better for the town of Milford if we all have a better view. Also we'll do, rotations where we keep all our, our old tooth people in certain places with the old knowledge, but on the whole, I'd like to move people around and try to get a better view on that. So, with that being said, I know that there are some subcommittees that have met, and do have some updates. I know first is Capital. Mr. Correa, do you have any
Yeah,
information?
Let me give you an overall. This year, we're looking like we're in good shape. The departments have really stepped up and helped us out. Give you a real quick one. Health Department is not asking for any articles at fall meeting. Cemetery's asking for a lawnmower for 16 grand. Parks Department, a lawnmower, 30 grand. Now, I do need the advice of the full FinCom. For the Parks Department, the 200,000 we've been putting away the last 2 years into the long-range plan, do we want to put an article, or do we just want to read it into the minutes and earmark another 200 this year in the long range?
Yeah, we can do that, but also, are we gonna be, is it possible for us to fit the 200,000 in there with the 1.5?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm saying.
All right.
Everything I'm reading you
Yeah,
can be fit in.
so that's why
I'm looking at right now about 1.3-ish. If I assume everything that's on we've already vetted it once, but now we're going deep. Like the fire truck, we talk about 1 million. 2012, we had a report, we went through it. Now we've asked the subcommittee chair, and Michael is bringing the chief forward to really go into it. But if I assume that all the items that we've left on and knocked off stay there, we're at about 1.3-ish.
Question now? Regarding the 200,000 for the parks, is there a long-range plan that lays out where, at some point, we think we'll spend the money and the need, and where are they going, and what's it gonna cost, and what year, and is there something that we could read as a document?
I can give you a real quick summary.
No, is there anything in black and white? that we
They're
could
gonna
read?
come through after this year with a plan, because what we didn't want to.
We're putting money away without a plan,
We're putting money away in our account
right?
that isn't going to automatically be released without approval of a full plan.
No, I understand it, but why,
But-
what initiated the original thought process to put
They
money
came
away?
before us in front of the committee for new fields, and it was at the tradesman at 2.1 million. That was the year we got the surprise at the youth center.
Okay.
So we went back to them and said, there's no way that I can fit 8 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag.
Understood.
Would you let us build it up like we did Pheno Field Lights? And then 3 years in, have a real hard discussion, because then we'll be halfway towards funding it, and decide, does this make sense? Personally, everything they've talked about and everything I've lived through, they need fields. There's no, even with Woodland coming on,
Well,
They
I
need
don't
fields.
doubt, I don't doubt that, but I mean, there's a lot of needs in town. And I'm just wondering, why do we select
You're,
fields and not
I
something
think
else?
you're 100% right. And then the way Al says it, and I think basically the long and short of it is we're putting it aside, but if they don't justify it and they can't sell it, they're not getting it.
you're not
If
getting
It's
it.
too expensive.
Or if it's too, oh, exactly. If they come back and say it's gonna be 2 million, or they're gonna wait 10 years to get the money, so.
It's the same
either way.
idea we did
Yep.
with the fire truck, where
Yep.
we said, we'll put money aside because we believe it's gonna come, but the chief doesn't get a blank check till he justifies it.
Tell you, my recollection is that he had met with us to talk about the need for the truck, and I thought he laid out,
2012.
yeah, I thought he laid out a convincing plan
Yeah.
at that time.
Bobby, he did. We have a full proposal.
Yeah.
My issue was, I went back to Mike and the chief, I said, okay, that was 4 years ago. It was a compelling argument, the data was there, but that's 4 years old. Can you update it?
Sure, sure,
And
and
so if you-
sometimes we ask them to wait a year or two.
Yeah.
so-
Well, and Bobby, if you recall, he was waiting to see if this grant would come through.
Correct.
Yes, the FEMA
exactly.
grant,
We
and then
all
when that-
agreed to
yes,
wait, Mike, yes, I agree.
So-
And the other question that I raised is, sorry, Phil,
No, that's all right.
it's $50,000 a year to own the ladder truck. $1 million, 20 years, you do the math. Why do we need to spend $50,000 this year? If we wait 1 year on that truck, we save 50 grand. Now, it may be that the price goes up, it may be that there's issues, but just fundamental question.
Yeah.
Why should we spend $1 million this year versus next year? And the chief's gotta come and explain it.
We are gonna retire the old one.
The other question that we asked is, what is the disposition? Because I know in the past, on certain town assets, we say they're unsafe, they can't be used. Next thing you know, for the next 5 years, town A or B next door
Yeah.
is still using it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're guilty in the town ourselves of reusing.
Well, so that's all part of the update that's coming on the 26th?
I think so, it's the
Or the 9th,
Yeah.
one of the two Mondays.
Because if you wait a year, you actually wait in a year and 18 months,
Yeah.
because it takes that long to build the
Yeah.
fire truck.
Right, right.
Yeah, just to follow up on Bob's point, you know, I'm all for a reserve account, and certainly given our financial situation, which is very good, we should do that. But if we're gonna do something, you know, for parks, and, you know, I'm a big proponent of fields, but we should have some idea, Al, of what they're planning to do, so that, just not to blindly set money aside. I'd like to have some
I think that's a good
sense.
point. I think we'll start getting them in
2
that
years
direction.
ago, when we told them that we could not afford the two, we didn't see that we could justify 2.1 million for a new field at the tradesman.
Yeah.
The idea came out and was discussed really low level in general. Well, wouldn't we be better off just turfing a field like the one behind the high school? Because that would give us 2.5 fields worth of use on one field. The reason I'm holding off on asking them for a detailed report is I don't want the politics getting in on, do we do it at the town park? Do we do it at the high school? I want to find out, do we really need another full field? Why do we need it? Is this the best option? You know, all those pieces. So right now, we have 400,000 that over 2 years, we've said is in the long-range planning committee account. But if they can't justify it, that just stays there.
But to Bobby's point, I don't think it would be a bad thing to ask for a 30,000 foot.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
nice to have
You know what I
some
mean?
idea.
I mean,
It's nice to
No
have some idea
no
where we're going.
location, nothing that, but just, let's get a 30,000 foot vision of what you're looking for.
I will ask.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanna make sure, I think that the committee's aware that we put $200,000 to the side for the
Yep.
field.
400,
I mean, a year,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that we've done this, right?
So this would be the third installment.
Yeah.
But again, we always said we would debate it every year.
I don't think
It
there
isn't
should,
an
I don't think there
automatic.
should be anything that should be automatic, to be honest with you. I think we should always look at stuff like that. And I think it's an excellent point. And that's something we haven't asked for, but I think we should ask for it, so.
Fire department, just so you know, the $35,000 for the phone system, chief says he can wait a year. It's not critical. We moved it a year. The library, we met with them. They have a high-vac issue in their IT closet. A full proposal is coming to us. And again, all of these proposals that the subcommittee reviews, I talked to Andy, and he said that it's up to the selectmen, but they're gonna put it up in a certain area that everybody will have access to the full proposals. So that before you come into a meeting knowing you're gonna vote on a fire truck, the whole package will be available, and any town meeting member can also look at the whole package. So that way, at least we can prepare before we come to meetings. School committee, there were many, many items. I know that was a source of question. We met with them, and they're only gonna bring forward 2 items. One is fixing the elevator at Memorial, and one is the fire security doors at Stacy. Again, on the 19th or 26th, it's one of the
26th,
Mondays.
yes.
26th, we have a full presentation from them. Their presentations will then be made available to the FinCom. General government, again, the IT group has said that their budget that we gave them is adequate for what they need. And Bobby, you'll know more as tech committee.
More soon.
But right now, there's no article going on for any hardware or software for IT.
But there's money in the budget to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, yeah.
They have enough in their
I
budget.
believe so, yeah.
Police department, the only thing that is coming forward, and it's up to the pleasure of the chairman, but I wouldn't even ask the chief to come, it's 25,000, it's the 4th payment
Nope.
for his computer system of 4 years. So I'm not even bringing him in front of the subcommittee, because it's just a payment. Engineer, we have nothing. General government, we have a heating system, some sprinklers, and John Erickson approached us, God, I'm gonna say 3-4 years ago, with getting
Software. upgrade.
software for his group, and he's bringing a proposal forward for $9,000. And at the end, then the highway kicks in, and that's, we may need about $20,000 of stormwater mapping. He's got a dump truck number 14, that's 1989, in the plan. We have not seen the proposal to actually replace it. We won't see that till the 19th or the 26th. And he's got the Route 16, which is 90,000. Fisk Mill Bridge, we actually got very nice note from Scott saying we thought it would be $1 million and we would pay half. He now truly believes it's only 600,000. So our half would be 300. So all told, when you add everything in, if we decide to allocate the 200 for the field setback, we'll be at about 1.3, which leaves us a couple $100,000 that we said special occurrences and emergencies for spring. We should be fine with a couple $100,000 plus the 1-point-some odd million of free cash. So I'm feeling this, the year I'm feeling the best about capital I have in a long time.
Yeah, good, great.
And it's great work that you,
And every article though, just so, Bob, you don't have to ask, I will be posting them as we get them. So like, the library came through and could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to add air conditioning to their IT closet. When they
Could be
came,
nothing.
when they came to us, we said, wait a minute, have you put slats in the door? Have you put egg crates in the ceiling to see if that'll dissipate enough heat?
Sure.
So the agreement we had is they're going forward with their article, pending, obviously with our approval, if we feel comfortable with their proposal. But they won't spend a penny of it, even if we approve $10,000, they don't get to spend any of it till they've monitored the slats, the cutting of the door, the ceiling.
Looking at alternatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's $200. If we can get away with $200, then that 10,000 will never be spent and just fall to free cash. I'm done.
Very good.
Next subcommittee, it'll be the last one I do, it's Bobby's after that. I just want to mention that this committee has been asking, and the whole town has been asking for, an information technology plan, okay? And Andy, Zach, and Rick, they put in a lot of work, as well as a lot of input from Bobby and Al, and, you know, I chipped in a little bit. And they put together a 3-year plan. I think it's a great starting point. I think it addresses a lot of the questions we asked. It's up on the Google Drive for all of you if you want to look. It's about 30 pages. It's pretty comprehensive. It's not a 30,000 view, it's maybe 15, so it doesn't get completely specific about certain things. There are some things, but let me tell you, it gives you a very detailed view of what their vision is for the IT department, how they're going to do things going forward for the 3 years. She's going to expand it out to the 5. People always caution that, you know, 5 years in technology is almost impossible to you know, have a vision for. But he's done a great job with the 3-year plan. Like I said, I want to compliment, you know, the 3 gentlemen, and Bobby and Al, and about putting it together. And I suggest, if you have any interest, to get on the Google Drive and read it. But it was good work by Andy and the crew, and for an IT plan, I thought it read excellent.
So you took the VHS tape players off?
Yes, it is off. I think we're up to CDs now. We'll be to DVDs next year. All right. The next thing for Public Works, and Joyce's issue after that, but because Scott is basically, Chris Foley's looking over the bus situation. The bus is off and it's running, and you guys maybe have been behind it in town, or you've seen it going by. They have had no issues. The chief has not had any issues with traffic. The ridership is about 20 people per day is what's riding it right now. Once again, there's a task force that's been put together, and they're going to monitor this. They're going to work on public relations, information, all that kind of stuff. And we were always told in the beginning that it was going to be a work in progress. It's certainly started that way. So I wish them all the best of luck. Like I said, they're off the ground, and let's see what they can do with that. But I just wanted to update everybody. If you haven't seen the buses, they are out there. And that's pretty much it. Woodland, I wish Aldo was here to give us a Woodland update. But with him not being here, I want to sincerely congratulate Aldo and Jonathan and the rest of the Woodland Building Committee for an unbelievable job done. I know I have 2 kids at Woodland. I live by Woodland, so I drive by there all the time. I do not know the open house date. I don't think they've established it yet for the public. I can't stress to you enough, I'd love to go up there as a full FinCom and look at what the town's $60 million has done. They've created an unbelievable environment for our kids to learn, and they've done it under budget, and it's amazing. And I wish Aldo was here and I could give him a pat on the back, because the work him and Jonathan done has been absolutely amazing. So I'd like to get a report from him when he comes in next time on that. So
I know that, Mr. Chairman, real quick.
Yep.
A little confusion on the field size and all of that, but
Yep.
At least Jonathan answered all that. I
Yep,
think.
there was some talk, and I'm going to give it the 30 seconds, that there was some debate, but because the field that they're putting on the old Woodland School, the turf field, is going to be limited in size because of conservation. To put anyone's fears aside, there is not one sport that cannot be played a full game except for football. And that can certainly practice there. But lacrosse, girls soccer, boys soccer, anything else, and football can practice on it. There just cannot be a football game. Besides that, everything else can be done, and Jonathan Bruce sent us a very detailed email explaining that. So if anyone in the public has any question about why would we build a field you can't play on, they need to check into it, because that's absolutely, positively not the case.
And remember, we only had a 6v6 set of fields
I
at
know.
Woodland.
Yep.
Now, the field is 100 yards long.
Yep.
And the only reason you can't stripe it and play football is that the football field requires 10 yards for each end zone. They only had 5 yards for the end zones. So they could have put it's 100 yards, but they only have 5 yards for each end zone. But apparently the AD said he's never going to play games there.
Exactly.
Fair enough?
They got blocked by like a red spotted toad or something that wouldn't allow them to extend it, I don't know.
But we
but-
ended, I think the key is, we ended up so much better off than we had before.
No.
And now they've gone through to make sure the the crumb rubber debate isn't affecting us. I mean,
Oh,
they've
no,
really
they,
done
they
a
just,
wonderful
like I
job.
said, it makes me wonder why we shouldn't have a standing building committee and just have Aldo and Jonathan just chair it all the time, and any building that comes up, just have the two of them do it, because
moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'm telling you, when you look at all the other projects that we've done in town, and they've all been over budget and under scoped, and you get and they've been a fraction of the size, you come up and you get the biggest project this town has ever taken on, done unbelievably and under budget. So, like I said,
Just modify your little spreadsheet. to
the, the two of them, they should be our standing building committee, the two of them, so. Does anyone else from any other subcommittee chairmans have a report, or anybody who has anything? Yep,
Sewer is gonna meet October the 4th,
okay,
the sewer department. We're gonna get an update on the building that we funded at last year's town meeting. They haven't broken ground yet. But we also wanna meet with them. This committee has asked, and numerous other folks have asked, what are the plans for expanding the sewer system in the town of Milford? So that's one thing we're gonna drill down on this year, and that will begin October the 4th, excuse me.
awesome. Any other subcommittees?
Look north, young man, look
I
north.
stress it, and I want everybody, I know that we were looking earlier, yeah,
Can you be a little
exactly.
more specific?
I know,
You got any
that was,
grid
that was,
coordinates
that
for
was
me?
cryptic.
Yeah, Woodland.
Yeah.
Go past Wood,
Yeah.
yeah.
I stress everybody, I know you guys looked earlier, make sure some of you may have become chairmans of some subcommittees without knowing it, but check. Also, if I can ask all subcommittee chairmans to CC me on when your meetings are, because I'm gonna try to come to as many as possible. So if you guys can all let me know on that, because I'm gonna try to make the rounds and make as many of those as possible. All right, the last thing that's on the agenda is new and old business, and actually, we can't talk about that, because we have been told by town council that that cannot be done. It is not worded correctly, and he is absolutely right. We got put on the agenda this way after he had slapped our wrist, whatever it was, 6 months ago, and I take full responsibility that it showed up on the agenda like that. But for anyone's clarification, we cannot do new business without having it posted. And to Mr. DeVita's point, when you want new business on the agenda, such as when you talked about earlier about the water company purchase and that kind of stuff. If we can talk about that in what we used to call old and new business, so we'll do it at the end. If you interrupt the meeting and do, that's fine, but that's technically where Jerry has told us that when we do things for new agenda items for new meetings, that's where you do it at the end, where we used to do new and old business. But anyway, I put it on there, and I apologize to Mr. Moody, I did it incorrectly, but, so in the future, that's where we'll put any future agenda items. And once again, we won't talk about them, I'll just say that we're gonna put it on the next agenda item. So, last thing I got is the yearly.
The other thing is, if I wanna talk about buying the Pluto company,
Unless you have a reason and
I
it's
could
an
go
emergency.
to ahead before you post the agenda.
Yes.
And have it listed.
Oh, of course, absolutely, and I stress anyone, if anybody has anything before any meeting, and I will try to send out an email to remind you, but if anyone has anything for an agenda item for the next meeting, please let me know, and I'll make sure it gets on there, so.
Diana just changed the meeting we have in a
Yep.
week and a half.
Absolutely.
Where now it was just highway, now it's highway and school.
Yep, no question,
So that's legit.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
we
you
get 48 hours, but if you plan a week ahead, you never get in trouble.
All right. Last thing, two last things. New and old, the Association of the Town Finance Committees is having their annual educational forum on Saturday, October the 15th, from 9 to 2:30. We always say if any member is interested in going, please let Diana know so we can hook up your registration and get the fees done, so. Diana, you didn't let me know.
Well, I give
Where it
you all
is.
paperwork.
The Devon's Common Center. So I would assume that's at Fort Devens. I would assume.
Good ride up on the
Yes, it
bike.
is a good ride. So that's October the 15th. It's a Saturday between 9 and 2:30. So if anyone's interested, please let Diana know. Last thing, obviously, we have a lot to talk about in the next month. So I wanted to just throw some meeting dates out there for you. We're going to do the usual. We'll assign 2 dates. Hopefully, we can bang it out in one. Or we'll talk about if we just get tired and we want to do 2, whatever, but can we at least just cordon off 2 dates? I have the 2 options, really, to be honest with you, are September 28th and 29th, that's a Wednesday and Thursday, or October 4th and 5th, which is a Wednesday and Thursday. Now,
Fifth and
Fourth and
sixth.
fifth is Tuesday and Wednesday.
Fifth and sixth.
oh, maybe I looked at a bad calendar. I apologize, but those, so I wanted to see if anyone had a preference. Obviously, if we went a week early, the only thing, on both of those dates, we can make our 2-week obligation to get our report out. So it's just if, it's a little bit tighter, obviously, on the 4th and 5th, but there's certainly plenty of time.
I
Why don't you do the
29th.
Or whatever that Wednesday and Thursday is, I'm sorry, I
28th,
obviously.
29th.
28, 29.
All right, great. So we want to do the 28th and 29th? Which would hoping to do the bulk on the 28th, obviously. Once the warrant comes in and gets finalized, I'll be able to look at the numbers, and also the fact that Al's committee has reviewed most of the capital, we're gonna, not rubber stamp, I would never say that, but hopefully rubber stamp whatever he has, so. And then obviously any new articles, we need to get the proponents of those articles in, so. Does anyone have any issue 28th, 29th? All right, so why don't we put those in the book for the 28th and 29th to go over warrant articles. I'll get you out, I would say our normal meeting time 7. And once again, if we can do everything on Wednesday, that'd be great. I will get out an agenda on any of that stuff. And also if department heads can also, once we get the warrant on Tuesday, if subcommittees can get to their department heads, just get some information on that so that when we do meet, we can have all that addressed and answers to the questions that we have.
Speaking of 28th, 29th, does anybody want to do the annual report to the town meeting?
I'd like to nominate Al Correa to do it. Does anyone else, is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
All right, guys, has anybody got anything else? All right, guys, thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great night.
Thank you.